Had a buddy fall out of a dually and have his head squished by the back tires. Worst thing I ever saw. People ask Reddit, have you ever seen a dead body? What's the story? Old security guard guy named John used to rent out our upstairs. Nice guy, kept a lot of soda around and would always keep a few around for us kids. John usually worked nights, so it was not unusual for us to not cross paths or see him a lot as he slept during the day. One day a cop shows up at the house and I answer the door not knowing what I did. Turns out he was there because John hadn't come in or contacted the security company he worked for in a week. Asked if he could go upstairs and check to see if John was there, so my mom, the cop, and I go up to his room, open the door, and all I remember was seeing a blue arm hanging off the bed before I bolted. Guess he had died in his sleep. He was old and a widower and was kind of at the point where he just wanted to see his wife again, so it was sad, but he died naturally. Thanks for all the soda, John. When I was 11 I lived alone with my dad because him and my mom had gotten a divorce about 6 years back. He had diabetes and was seizure prone. One day I was riding my bike home from school, opened the front door and saw him sitting on the couch with his head back. Being a kid, I didn't think too much of it and I thought he was asleep. I picked up a pillow and tossed it to him and said, "Hey, I'm home," but he didn't say anything or react. That's when I froze. I looked closer and saw blood running down his chin from his mouth. I guess he had a seizure while I was at school, bit off his tongue and drowned in his own blood. Only dead body I've seen outside of a funeral. Reply: I worked in a funeral home and saw more bodies than most people, but nothing prepared me for finding my dad dead. He had type 1 and was going blind, but we had each other after my mom died. I screamed so loud my neighbors called 911. I'm glad now that he died at home. The man hated hospitals. I rolled my roommate over. He was laying face down on his floor half naked. I knew instantly that he was gone. There was just such an unnatural look to his face. It's been 3 years and I won't forget it. Reply: you can always tell when you look at their face. They never look like themselves. Whatever it is that made them is just completely gone. It's kind of like looking at a familiar stranger. Even during open casket events, even as a kid, I always hated hearing people say how they looked at peace or like they were sleeping. They all looked like familiar strangers to me, not the person I knew and loved. I have seen a few, but the one that stuck with me was when I was in the US Air Force in Bosnia. I was in a caravan of black Chevy Suburbans and I see this body in a river caught on some tree branch. The body was just moving with the current but tugging at the branch with the head underwater. It made me panic and I told everyone in the vehicle there's a body in the river. And no one cared. I was trick-or-treating as a child. Person didn't answer doorbell, so I peeped through his window. He was lying face down on the kitchen floor. Called the police and they busted the door down right in front of me. He was dead for a few days before I found him. Reply: Halloween must have been scary that time, huh? I assume by they busted the door in front of you that meant you stayed near the door for a while, right? Answer: I was 8 years old and my brain didn't really register what was going on and I forgot about it for a long time. It wasn't really a big deal to me, let alone scary. After me and my friend called the police, we waited around for them to show up cause we thought they would want to interview or something. They didn't. While I was busting the door down, another officer was telling us to run along. We heard about what happened weeks later from a neighbor in our area. Whenever I was 13, I stayed with my grandmother who lived alone and was only 51 during spring break. I woke up in the middle of the night to her sitting in the living room, where I was sleeping on the couch. She was sitting there awake with her Pekingese. I asked her why she was up. She responded, "I can't sleep and hearing you and Ginger, the dog, sleep relaxes me, go back to sleep." I ended up going back to sleep. Woke up the next morning and found her passed away on her bedroom floor. More than I can count. EMS and fire service before working as an ed tech, med school, residency, and a couple years of practice. I've seen homicides, suicides, odds, fire deaths, blunt traumas, penetrating traumas, decompositions and decompensations. Kids and adults. I've intubated and pulled breathing tubes. I've been directly and indirectly responsible for deaths. I've broken that news to families. I take on that risk and responsibility daily. Some stay with me. Others do not. The one that I remember most vividly was my first year of residency. We had this biker lady in ICU who had no family, visitors, or next of kin. She had a state-appointed guardian. We'd run out of things we could do and were beyond the point where she'd have any chance at a meaningful recovery. So it fell to me to get the state guardian to approve withdrawal of care. Once all the calls were made and an approval was done, I went in with the nurse who helped me shut down the vent. I saw she had a band name tattoo, so I pulled up Spotify and played their top songs, pulled the tube, and held her hand the next 18 minutes till she ran out of steam and stopped breathing. It's been fucking with me lately because I remember how sad it was that she had nobody she knew nearby when she died. It was the only withdrawal of care I had to do like that. Till COVID. Watched a man have a heart attack at 45 miles per hour while driving his truck down a crowded city street, just past some junior high school kids. His last act in this life was to turn across 3 lanes of traffic, jump an empty sidewalk and plant his truck head-on into a concrete barrier. By doing so he probably ensured his own death in the accident, but undoubtedly saved lives. I was too far away to assist, but I watched while strangers pulled him out and tried CPR, then the medics arrived, took over and got him out of there. The damage from the accident, plus the heart attack meant he was dead before they got him out of the truck, so this barely counts. Also, had his truck gone the other way, he would have hit me instead of the barrier. My dad fell off the roof and broke his neck. By the time I got to the hospital he was clearly brain dead. We had to pull the plug. I'd never seen someone die before. It's crazy to see the near instantaneous change in color and texture of the skin when someone's heart stops. It was traumatic at the time, but enough time has passed that I can look back on it objectively now. My dad died of a massive heart attack when I was 14. I made the call to 911 while my older sister attempted CPR. It was like 2 in the morning and my mom was in shock. I know I saw him, but I don't remember much. There were crisis counselors, unsure of their official term, who showed up not long after the EMTs to comfort me and my siblings. They explicitly told us not to look into the room he was in, but I did anyway. The only memories I have of his appearance after he passed are how purple his face was, and the shape of the body bag they put him in. I know I saw more than that, but trauma is funny that way. Longest night of my life. My father, my brother and my first husband, all gone now, and I was there when they each died from heart attack, cancer and heart attack, respectively. I'm really not that old, either, but it sure brings you to your own mortality to experience your closest loved ones in the process of leaving too soon. Reply. This struck me in ways I wish it didn't. Sat by my wife of 21 years' side as she took her last breath at only 41 years old. We had another 40 plus years to spend together and full well intended on doing so. Ducking why? Damn it, why? Ducking sucks. My wife passed away last year, in our 50s, together since we were 18. Ironically, we thought for most of our lives that I would die early, since my father had several heart attacks starting in his 40s, while her parents are in their 80s and her grandmother made it to 103. I'm sure a bunch of Redditors have been to a viewing/wake, but I watched a coworker die in front of me of a massive coronary. We got back on the job site after lunch and about an hour later he was complaining of a stomachache and we were all giving him shit because he'd eaten a bunch of shellfish from a buffet. He left to get some antacid or Pepto-Bismol or something and came back, then about 30 minutes later his body locked up and he hit the floor. Another coworker started chest compressions, but we found out later he was pretty much dead before he hit the floor. He was barely 50 but he ate like shit and had a coke habit. Thank you for listening to another B-Town Reddit Stories episode. Hit the subscribe button and check out our channel for more stories. Let us know your opinion about this topic in the comments.